wabarakatuh. Hope you're doing well. I wanted to discuss something that is really important, and part of that is what you would call birth trauma. A lot of men don't really think about this when they get married, and a lot of women don't pick men who would be maybe, I guess you could frame it as good husbands during such a difficult time. And I wish more women talked about how they can get birth trauma, and exactly what that is they go to the hospital and it was just a very unfortunately unpleasant experience. And a lot of first time moms especially will go through birth trauma, and then they will suffer with a postpartum period. And a lot of men, maybe, let's put it this way, a lot of men will not exactly know how to support their wives during such a difficult time. If you notice in the manosphere, they talk about how all the things they want their women to do. But you never hear how they would handle helping their wife to overcome postpartum depression, birth trauma, or how to prevent birth trauma, and how to heal from PTSD from such dark thoughts that can come to some moms. And some women fall into such a deep depression that they don't even want to be touched. They cry and they seek out even antidepressants because they don't know how to handle the pressure. And if you're a man who's gulping down those red pills and you think a woman's gonna be your little nymph slave maid and she's never gonna talk, she's never going to upset you, she's kind of just like a walking fleshlight, you're not really gonna be concerned with helping her during such a difficult time. And that's a problem. A lot of women, when they're single and they haven't had children yet, they think the most important aspect to a relationship is if they're attracted to the man. But I would tell some of those women that it's is if you had a really buff muscle guy and he's kind of a stuck up, haughty, arrogant guy and he has money, but he's not gonna really support you during your postpartum period after childbirth, right? But then you had a guy who is maybe he's a little bit not chubby, but he doesn't have that nice of a body, and he has less money, but he's fully gonna be there for you when you're recovering from your postpartum period. I would tell you to pick the one who's gonna support you mentally during that, because a lot of couples drift apart, and a woman can turn to hate her husband during that period in such a way that it can never really go back to the same amount of love she had before they had children. Right? Scams. Hold on. And so it's very important that we help couples to stay together, and a way in which we get them to stay together is helping them to know that the postpartum period doesn't last forever. Okay? It's important. And I can't state that enough. We hear a lot from these manosphere guys about how they want women to stay married. They don't want people to get divorced. But they don't focus on one of the most difficult times for a couple. And one of the most difficult times for a couple is pregnancy and the first year of the child. It's very difficult because this can make or break a woman. This can make a woman feel not like herself. And what's even more scary is when you start doing research about how some babies get shaken. Sadly, it's pretty scary and breaks my heart that some women actually hurt their babies. And they pick men who don't have patience to help when the baby's colicky or has a fit, and the man shakes the baby. Not too long ago, I shared a news story where a father had shaken his baby, his 2-month-old, and given it severe brain damage. He didn't have the patience and the control of his anger in order to soothe the baby and just deal with the crying. And I really hope that more women can not look at a man just because he has money and looks, but to really examine the man and think, is he safe around the baby when it's crying? Will he be able to handle those sleep deprived nights? Will he be able to handle not having intimacy, and will he be able to handle without cheating, and stuff like that? Will he be able to do? This is so important. And I noticed a lot of the tradcons, the traditional conservative grifters, who all they talk about is how you should give intimacy to your husband. They never actually talk about what men should know when it comes to how things are going to change when children come into the picture. And some women have really turned to home births because they know if you have a good birthing process, you're less likely to suffer from postpartum depression. Okay? But if you have a very traumatic experience and no one knows if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to test them with a difficult time, no one knows that until it happens, right? And a man should know that he married this woman and he can't just quit. He can't just give up on her and be like, okay, you haven't given me enough intimacy, so I'm going to divorce you. And the baby's not even like 2 years old yet. You see what I'm saying? It's so easy for the traditional conservative grifters and the red pill manosphere to put all the weight on the woman to be Wonder Woman, to be this sort of octopus where she's got all like spinning plates and she's ironing with one hand and she's got the baby here and she's got all this to do, and she's supposed to be like this person who never fails, never gets tired, never makes mistakes, and is like a human footstool for her husband. And they never actually tell the truth to the men about how if you have this delicate flower that you married, you love her, you're excited. A man has to be prepared for how can he save his woman if she gets into that dark place. I was reading an article that was in the UK, and they were talking about how some women unalive themselves within the first year of having their children. And there isn't that... Okay, so let me back it up. There's a lot of broken homes, right? A good woman could have a mom who's not that great, or a dad who's not that great, or she doesn't have a network of people to help her, so she's going to have a rough time at it, and she has to have some encouragement. Now, there is mommy groups, and those can help if you get into the right one. If you are a member of Kaiser Permanente, they have some mommy and me classes you can go to. There's options out there for mamas who can, but I understand not everyone can drive to those. Some are on Zoom, and even if they're on Zoom, you don't really feel the connection, so it can get kind of isolating, and this can be very difficult for women. I highly encourage the men who may be watching who fail sometimes to examine how if you go into polygamy, if you marry 4 women, you have to be such a high quality of man that you can handle being that rock for those women when they go through their postpartum period. Assalamu alaikum, Shug. Good to see you. Good, you're doing good. Yeah, I got a duck in the oven. It's a rainy day, so I wanted to do a quick live stream. Uh, and wanted to. This topic has been brooding in my mind, so I gotta get it out with all of you. You know how I am. And so recently, I saw a traditional conservative Christian girl who she was posting some nonsense. I don't really think I consider her. Okay, I can't say she's not a real Christian. But what I can say is that she's acting like a nymphomaniac, and she was shaming a woman who hadn't given intimacy to her husband after she suffered with severe mental illness after postpartum. So let me provide some context. There was a woman who, after she had her baby, she really fell into a dark place and she had thoughts about harming her own baby. Very sad. Horribly sad. So she decided to get on antidepressants. The antidepressants lowered her drive to be with her husband. Let's put it that way. The couple had such a difficult time with her mental illness that for 1 year she didn't want to touch her husband. Something happened, okay? And they ended up getting a divorce. And what I found to be really sad was that the man gave up, okay? And this is what's scary for women, is because you will carry the child for 9 months. You gotta trust that this man is gonna stick around. Even though you married him, he could still run off. And then after you're in the hospital, you gotta hope that the process of your birth goes well. And then you have to worry about infection, recovering, right? And then you have to worry about keeping the baby alive, keeping yourself alive, keeping your home tidy, your man satisfied. And if this man decides to just quit because he's not getting satisfied with his intimacy needs, because he's being selfish and he can't sacrifice, there's a problem here. You see what I'm saying? So for 2 years, the woman has a heavy burden, a very serious burden. And if she's breastfeeding on top of that, the baby's nursing every 2 hours, she's putting in so much energy into the baby. She's not going to be Wonder Woman. And it's so important for men to understand that there's more to a relationship than intimacy, and to have patience, not to cheat and not to divorce a woman if she happens to go through a mental period where she's that deeply in a sad abyss. That is what I would hope some men would have mercy. I think that's a big thing why the Prophet, peace be upon him, mentions mercy. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the most merciful. A world without mercy is too much cruelty. And if we want abortions to go down, we have to make women feel safe in their marriages to have children. Because it is a huge sacrifice for a woman. You have permanent scars on your body. You will have the mental weight for the rest of your life, And so, again, it's important that you as a man know that when you get married, your wife may be tested with that trial. And women as well. Pick a man who you feel like you can trust. He's not going to quit halfway through it. You want to have a peaceful pregnancy, and you want to have a safe delivery, and you want to have a healthy recovery. And if more men talked about how their wife suffered and the strategies they used to help support her, I feel like this would calm many hearts of women. Because what is breeding so many radical feminists is the fact that they feel that the men don't care about them. that the men are not going to support them, that they see them as this sort of walking fleshlight, that they are just nothing. And the manosphere really shows zero mercy towards mothers, and they kind of fetishize this sort of Wonder Woman wife, and they never really talk to the men about, okay, if you have 4 wives, 2 have recently had kids, you got to go to work and you got to make sure that you're supporting her and not just leaving it up to everyone else. How you treat your wife during that sensitive period can either make her love you till your grave, or she will secretly have an empty space in her heart for you. And if our goal truly is to stop divorce, to stop abortions, then there needs to be more discussions, honest, raw, healthy discussions about how you can help a woman recover from birth trauma and from postpartum depression. And this isn't just a woman's issue, because it's not like a husband can tell his wife, you're crying at 2 a.m., call your friends and go out to the masjid. You see what I'm saying? It's 2 a.m. Like, what are you talking about? You know? A husband is going to have to be there. And he has to know how to balance out work, spending time with the baby, and helping his wife to get strong again. And some women, when they have their first child, it's like they just, like a human being has come out of them for the first time. And they have this, some of them have this kind of shock. And they're just like, who am I now? And then with the sleep deprivation coming in, and if they're not eating right, and if they're falling into deeper and deeper resentment, a man can watch his beautiful wife wither away, and he has to know how to see the warning signs and how to show affection to her and to understand her mood swings and her pain and her suffering. Because the woman has sacrificed her body and her sanity to give the man a present, which is the continuation of his bloodline. It is a remarkable gift to give, by the permission of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, a man an heir, a child. It's one of the greatest sacrifices a woman can do. It's a huge trial. A huge trial. Because the woman, once she's given a man a child, a piece of her heart is always with that child. Anything happens to that child, you could lose your wife forever. As in, a woman loves you so much, she gave you a baby. If that baby gets sick and passes away, your wife may never recover. And this is something that you have to examine. It's something that you have to be prepared for. And if she has a miscarriage, you have to be able to support her mentally and know when to try again to have another child. I want you to think about the sacrifices women make to give you children. Postpartum depression, birthing trauma, the risk of a miscarriage, giving birth to a baby who may not be healthy, or a baby who is colicky, a baby who cries. This is very important for you to remember. When you're selecting a woman, you are selecting a responsibility. And you have to pause and examine, are you ready to be a wife? Are you ready to be a husband? You have to know that the woman you are going to impregnate, she is going to sacrifice so much of her life for you. That is a special gift. And if a woman contemplates and thinks about, back in the day, for example, a lot of women passed away in childbirth. A woman would love a man and love a child so much she'd risk their life. to go through that process. It's astounding, the bravery of so many women. And I understand there's a lot of bad moms. But even the bad moms, they still didn't abort the child. They kept the child, and we must honor them for that. And truly, I want the men to be very careful of believing the women who grift online as being this sort of, lust queen, perfect trad wife. Don't believe them. When they're saying they always say yes to their husbands for intimacy, they had the baby and they were right back at it again. Understand that if your wife needs more time, that is healthy and normal, and it's all right. It doesn't mean she doesn't love you. What it does mean is that you have to practice patience, sabr. If you look at in the Quran, how many times patience is mentioned, right? And if you look at how many times in your life you're going to have patience, it is beneficial for you to recognize that after your wife has had a baby, this is a great test for you as a man. Will you stay loyal? Will you endure? You see what I mean? Shug says, the people pushing this agenda don't tell you about third-degree tears and childbirth, too busy glorifying the 1950s culture. Exactly. Sabah Pastel says, do more lives. I love your lives. Oh, thanks. Jazakallah khair. Yes, the tearing, it's intense. And further, if your wife has a C-section, this sometimes can take a longer time of recovery. And there's also risks of infection and tearing open of the incision. You have to be careful when you take a shower. They put a bandage over it. But it's a difficult time. It's a major surgery. Okay? And if you, as a husband, for example, have open heart surgery, you get a liver transplant, you suffered getting your gallbladder taken out, who knows how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will test you with the surgery. Your wife will need to have patience for your recovery as well. What I'm trying to get at here is we want women to have patience with their husbands if he gets a work injury. You'd be surprised how many men who work construction jobs get back injuries. They got to get spine surgery. They got to get knee surgery. I mean, wives have to have patience with their husbands. They can't just say, well, my husband got back surgery, so he's going to be out of doing intimacy with me, so I'm going to divorce him and run off with another guy. Or cheat on him because he can't do anything now because he's recovering from surgery. Do you see my point? So when it comes to a woman suffering mentally, if a man understands a woman is an emotional being, all humans are emotional, but if he knows that his swan is injured and she's not her typical strong self, he has to pray for her, to help her, to guide her. If he sees her not progressing, he needs to also know when is it time to get some intervention here. Okay, you call your favorite sheikha, your favorite sheikh. You try to find maybe some sisters who can visit her and talk to her to pep up her heart. Something, an intervention, something to help. Because if you don't do that, and you're just playing video games, or you're just working out, or you're just talking very little to her, she can fade and you won't even see it under your nose until it's too late. That is why it's very important for you to be careful of which female influencers you follow. You have to be careful. Shuk says these 1950s glorifiers often don't mention about the levels of alcoholism and self-harm attempts committed by these women that were stifled during that era. This is so important. That is a very good point. Very good point. A lot of husbands would be shocked to find out how pills weed edibles, um, different types of techniques women will use to cover up their breath from drinking because they're trying to mentally cope and they don't feel comfortable to tell their husbands that they're suffering. Or they force themselves to have intimacy when they're not ready, and then they use a substance to loosen up. Some of them, I don't want to say everything, but just get the point that there's a lot of techniques that women will use to alter their consciousness so that they can do it, and then this breeds addiction. You know, Hamid says basically a man should aim to care for his wife the way the Prophet, peace be upon him, did with his. The thing that we don't get with the Prophet, peace be upon him, is he had multiple wives, but he only had children with one, right? And then a son with Mary the Coptic, right? So unfortunately, we didn't get to see how he would handle like dealing with wives who just had babies, because we don't know much about what happened with Khadija when he had, but we do know he suffered with the death of his two daughters, the two daughters who married Uthman bin Affan. Uthman married one of his daughters. She passed away from an illness. Then his other daughter married Uthman. She passed away also. So we know that he struggled with having to see his children be buried, right? We don't get a lot of knowledge about how he helped Khadija in that area. And so what I find very interesting is not too many people talk to men about the importance of supporting their wife in that time that she recovers. Because I think some men think, oh, well, she had one child, so that means if she has 2, 3, or 4, she'll know what to do and she'll never need my help. Thing is, every pregnancy is different, and you don't exactly know the future. You can't know the future. So she may have had 2 fine pregnancies, was only sad for about a month, hid much of it from you, but maybe her last child, it's like huge, you know? And so this is important for all of us to remember when we are helping young couples to get married, to stay married. I really hope that this sort of live stream can help you to recognize how you need to tell these young men when they get married, hey, things change for a little while when you're first getting used to each other, when you're newlyweds, your very first pregnancy, and after she gives birth, if it's her first child, you know, things can change, and here's how you support that process. Because we want to lower abortions. Okay? I feel a lot of empathy for women who have birth trauma, and they're getting mocked by grifters like Pearly Things who say trauma isn't real, and they reduce women to, oh, a man only wants intimacy, silence, and a sandwich, and he'll be so happy with you. And it's like, okay, when children come into the picture, the wife has to know the husband's mental health, and the husband needs to know her mental health, because that's real. And a lot of women used to just suffer in the past in complete misery, and they were broke and poor, so they didn't divorce. So if we have women today who have college degrees and careers, they say, well, I'm depressed, my husband isn't helping me, so I'll just divorce because I have money and a career. And then we have more broken homes. So a key aspect of keeping these couples together is talking openly about the struggles women can have. And this doesn't mean the woman is broken. A husband doesn't need to resent his wife because she's struggling. It's nothing to be ashamed of. You understand? Shug said some of these slabheads are telling new husbands not to be present at their children's birth with their wives as support. Again, with a cigar in the mouth and 50s crap. Yeah, there's been some red pill Muslims who have called out in the past who have said that it's... And some women were saying it was also disgusting to have your husband there. And I find that to be a terrible way of thinking, because none of my family lives in California. So when I was giving birth, my daughter was there and she got that educational process, and my husband was there and he was telling me, push and everything. And him being there made me feel safe because I'm surrounded by strangers. I mean, in a moment where you're so vulnerable, you need your lion. You need your lion to be there to protect you. And medical malpractice is common. Birth trauma is also from bad nurses, bad doctors, and your husband being there to protect you. It prevents some scenarios from occurring. Because long behold, a lot of really catty, rude nurses will not transgress upon you when they see your husband be there. Sabah says, when I heard that a father shouldn't be present, it gave me waswasa. Subhanallah, these red pill Muslims ain't doing us justice. Very good point. Very good point. It's strange that some people would shame the father being there. But one thing that helps me have hope is when you watch some of these home birth videos, like a woman will have this pool that she's in, the husband's there, and sometimes I've seen, the 5-year-olds there, seeing firsthand what life is about, seeing that process. It's intense, and these women are so strong, and they just pull up their own baby, and the baby's there, and you're like, this is wow. And the medicalized births in the hospital are a very intense test for women. It's a lot more fear-inducing, and I understand why. Before, I didn't fully understand why so many women would risk having a home birth. I was like, why? But then when you start looking at how some hospitals in certain cities are just not that great, I can understand why more women rather go the old school route. And so now I have a more deeper, richer understanding. But again, if a man loves his children, he has to know how to support his wife so that she doesn't harm the baby, because that's real. And some women, they'll be surprised at the strange thoughts they have. Well, it is surprising, right? They're having these dark, oh, I don't like my life, or it's so sad how they get tested in this way because they're surprised, like, what's going on, they'll think. And this is where a strong female role model comes in, and where your God-fearing husband is there to grab you and say, everything's going to be okay, to embrace you. This isn't simping. A lot of red pill Muslims think being kind to your wife is simping, and being a cold-hearted tyrant who makes his woman tie his shoes or something, that's how you should be. And this is a form of misery. Again, it's so important how you can support women during such difficult times. So important. Because more children could have a healthier relationship with their mom if they didn't see her go through such dark times. And remember, your wife could have 2 kids and then she has depression. The children are witnessing the depression of the mother. And this is something that can make them afraid of motherhood as well. They're watching the dad. Is the dad going to support the mom? Is the dad going to help her to recover? The children are watching. So a man should know that his son is going to watch how he treats his mom during her postpartum depression period. And even if the man doesn't feel the emotion for the woman, let's do a scenario. Let's say They met, they got pregnant right away. They didn't fall deep in love yet. And he doesn't feel that much love for her. He still has to step up and help her to recover for the sake of the children and for the safety of the baby, and so that the family can have peace. Because there would be nothing worse if a man ignored his wife, she took her life, and then the baby is left motherless. We must be careful. We must be careful. Because if a woman feels like she's totally unsupported, she could not only do great damage towards herself, but towards her baby. And we have to help them. Shuk says that first year after birth, the woman and child are so vulnerable, men have to know that they are needed more than ever at that time. Agreed. Sabah says exactly, tell these ideas to a normal Muslim man that is God-fearing, he will be shocked. And so keep this in mind for when your children get married or when you yourself are getting married. It's, again, imperative upon us to help people recover from mental depression, to help new mothers feel supported, and check in on them, okay? Let's say you have a cousin just had a baby. Always text before visiting because she may be very tired. Salam, Fauzan. Just check in on her. Do you want some Chinese food? Bring flowers. Bring a cup of coffee, like a latte from your favorite coffee shop. Comfort her. Bring her some nice, soft, cozy socks that you saw on Amazon. Little small gifts can just help somebody feel like they are loved and important. It's just amazing. You'd be so surprised how a little act of kindness can go so far with a new mom who is grappling with depression. You know? And so, again, truly help the new moms. And if you're a father, it's okay to have these conversations with your daughter when she's about to have a baby, right? And don't just leave it up to your wife to talk to your daughter about struggling with postpartum depression, birth trauma, and whatnot. And if you can, let's say your cousin, your auntie, someone in your family, your friend is in the hospital, visit. When the hospital sees people visiting this mama, even though she may be tired, you don't stay too long because she needs to sleep. You just visit, hi, how are you? You know, get a card and flower, congratulations. You know, you give the little baby a onesie. You bring her, you know, a donut or something. You visit her and you go. It helps the hospital staff to see this person is cared about. I really do believe that women who don't get visited in the hospital, it's almost like there's more predatory nurses and cruelty done to these moms who are vulnerable and alone. It's so important for mamas to have support from the husband, and if the husband is obviously visually nervous, you know, comfort the father. How are you? How are you feeling? Congratulations. Give him a pat on the back. Ask him if he needs anything from the store. Do you need eye drops? You know, do you need some Pepto-Bismol or something? Uh, the more we support people in the hospital and afterwards, the better. Shuk says it can really help when the husband takes the baby for a few hours and gives the new mother a time to just rest and know she can lean on him. Yes, taking the baby out with the stroller, right? And you come back with something for the mama. Or one thing I know a lot of women like is, even if she likes decaf coffee, bring back something from the favorite coffee shop. Hey honey, oh, I'll reheat it later, she might say, or not right now, but the gift is there and it's in the refrigerator, right? Little things can really be romantic to women who are struggling, and they will remember those little acts of kindness where you took the baby and she got to just take a nice long hot bath or a nice long hot shower. You do these little things as a husband, it can help. It can help so much. If you have dogs, take the dogs for a walk, take the baby. Little things like that can be immense. You have a fish tank. She hasn't fed the fish because she's struggling. Feed the fish. You know, it's remarkable. And have patience with the dishes. A lot of new moms also, when they're struggling with postpartum depression, they don't have the energy to want to clean. So if you're able, I know a lot of people are not able to do this, but maybe you have a maid come that day. There's a service called Molly Maid. Maybe you do the cleaning. Maybe you eat off of paper plates so there's less dishes to wash in the sink, because some women they cry because there's like a mess. Some women get very emotional when there's a mess, and so this can make them even more depressed. So men understanding about the difficulties mamas suffer with that is very important. Very important. And if you're on your third kid, your fourth kid, a husband taking all the little cute children out, and the mom just having a moment of quietness and a half an hour nap, subhanallah, like that can really help. And this is why, having a grandma, having a grandpa is important, but we must remember not everyone has that. And we have to help husbands understand the roadblocks that come. Marriage is not just my way or the highway. It's a lot of patience. A lot of patience. And I'm so happy for the people who made it through those time periods. It's such a test and trial for the new couples and even for seasoned parents. But let us all make sure that we pray for every woman to have a wonderful birthing process, and that we try to help those in our life who struggle with birth trauma, and that we talk more about it so that people can do what they can to help others. Because through helping others, we can actually cause more change and more conversation. And maybe if more people talk about birth trauma, maybe hospitals will redesign their birthing ward. Maybe people will have more mercy in the nursing field or the OBGYNs. You never know. The more open we are about it, the more solutions we can find. And the less shocking it will be to moms who didn't expect it to happen to them. A lot of arrogant, tradcon women are lying to men, especially red pill men, about the difficulties of motherhood. And they're portraying a sort of fantasy image of a woman who's always smiling and she just never has a mental breakdown. She's always ready for anything, anytime. It's strange. No doubt we want to be strong and we want to do the best we can. I mean, most women, I think, in their hearts truly want to be good mothers and good wives. And they will need reminders, healthy, helpful reminders. But we can't help women if fake tradcons are pushing a fetish to grift and get followers and likes. To help women is to talk about the nitty gritty. To help men is to let them see the raw reality. And so today, I want you to, if you can, really think about birth trauma and how some women suffer that. And if you're not a mom yet and you are ready to have a family, think about that and have some plans and actions and have some phone numbers and some locations possible. Because you're going to need it. And if you have a friend who's going to have a child, have those types of information ready so that she can utilize it. If you're a father and your daughter's about to give birth, you're about to be a grandpa, be ready for that as well. Okay, I'm going to go check on the duck. I've checked the live stream timing, so the kids are playing. They're playing in the living room. And she's laughing. They're so silly. So, thanks for tuning in. I'm going to pull that duck out the oven. It should be almost done, you know. And it's raining, so I'm gonna go hang out with the kiddos. But I just wanted to have this kind of quick pop in live stream because it's something that's been weighing on my heart greatly. Because I've seen more cruelty now towards moms from the manosphere and the grifting tradcon female influencers who are fetishizing motherhood and just trying to kind of get those male followers, and it does a disservice to honest and decent people with integrity. And I don't want to name anybody, so we'll just speak in generalities. It's better to speak in generalities than to call off the individuals. And so think about what I said and let me know what you think. It's a serious topic. Very serious topic. But if you hear, for example, that a woman is struggling mentally with birth trauma, PTSD, depression, anxiety, after she's become a new mom, have mercy, okay? Just pray for her and try to find some way to help. And if it's on an online forum, just make your prayers. I often pray for new moms, you know? I often pray for new moms. And I hope you do as well. And if you'd like to join my blog, it's www.subscribestar.com/MilahanArchive. I post a lot of refutations on there, memes, culinary art stuff, art reviews, quite a diverse mix of content on there that I hope you can utilize. And so that can be a tool, for you. But let me know. Take care, and thanks for tuning in, everyone. Mashallah.